Welcome back to Wake Up with Cheddar. After losing its name and facing concerns about the safety of its workplace environment, Washington football is taking steps in a new direction. Last week, the team hired the first Black president in NFL history. And I want to bring in Jason Wright, president of the Washington football team. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. You are the youngest president in NFL history and the first Black president. What does that mean for you? What does it mean for the league?
Well, I guess thanks for having me. First of all, I guess as a marker for the league, it's a credit to so many of the folks, especially Black executives, who really paved the way. Kevin Warren, the current commissioner of the Big Ten, Rod Graves, who was my general manager in Arizona, and all the Black head coaches that broke the mold. Heck, even Doug Williams, the first prominent Black quarterback in the NFL, who's still here and a part of our franchise. All played a really critical role in allowing the world to see that Black talent could thrive in places that wasn't normally seen. So I owe it as a credit to many of them. And so it's a great time to reflect on that.
You are joining an institution that's dealing with multiple crises, the search for a new team name, multiple credible reports about a pattern of sexual harassment in the front office that went on for years, a legal battle with a partner who's trying to sell his stake, a coach undergoing cancer treatment. A lot on your plate. What is your priority and your plan to turn things around here?
That was a long list you had there. My goodness.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's very much real. I'll start with what I think is the most important. Sexual harassment has no place in our culture. I have a clear vision for the culture we're going to establish where all colleagues, but especially women, feel comfortable bringing their full selves to work, feel safe to report leadership behaviors that don't align with our values. But most certainly actually are more empowered to be a part of the most critical decisions we're making as a franchise, including the new identity and the new direction. Because it's not just a moral imperative to have a workplace that's inclusive for women, it's also a business imperative. Because the data says if you have more than one woman engaged on a decision, the collective intelligence of that team is higher than it would be otherwise. So it actually is going to help us expand the business as well as being the right thing to do. But I look at all of these as opportunities, frankly, and it's what excited me about the role. These are hard problems. They're challenging problems, especially this first one I've talked about is something that weighs heavily on the organization, but the solutions are quite simple. And we have great talent around this place that can get us there. And so I'm very excited to take them on and continue to build the team with the great talent that can get it done.
The team's owner, Dan Snyder, he has avoided kneeling with players who were protesting in past seasons. If your players do decide to kneel during the anthem ahead of your first game against the Eagles in 2 weeks, will you be kneeling alongside them?
Well, Dan and Coach Rivera, I think, did a great job before I got here of setting what the policy is. And I think what they have said is we are giving space for everybody to express their way of they're expressing their values in the way that they want. I think Coach Rivera went even further and said, "Look, I read the doggone Constitution, and what I saw in there were a couple things. One, that actually people protesting or raising their voice in demonstrative ways that get attention, move the needle on our country and actually help us evolve into a more perfect union." And so all three of us, Dan, Coach Rivera, and myself, are supportive of guys doing any and all things that they can to push this forward. And I'm going to do my part too from my platform, which I think is different. I think it's very different from the players. But there is a real good opportunity for me to add my voice to what they're doing and help magnify what they're doing.
I want to switch gears a bit and talk about the coronavirus pandemic. The NFL is not going to be playing in a bubble. We saw a lot of problems with professional baseball. Are you concerned? Do you think the NFL is doing enough to make sure that players and coaches and everybody stays safe and that the season can continue once it
I think
starts?
Yeah, great question. I think the NFL is doing everything it can. And at the same time, I am still very concerned not because of lack of preparation on the NFL side, and certainly not because of lack of execution on our team side. We have a damn good team in place. It is just the coronavirus is a very unpredictable pandemic. It is tricky at every turn and the data shifts and changes. And so while we don't have a bubble and we can't have a bubble given the size of rosters and the space needed, we are creating what I'd call a virtual bubble. And it's really all about behaviors. Really the physical bubble for the NBA and others was really about individual behaviors. And so that's where we're really focused. And the data that we're getting is going to help us do that. And then it's really up to guys to see themselves as part of a collective, knowing that 1 weak link can actually, cause the season to go in a bad direction.
I was watching the U.S. Open last night with no fans in the stands, and it's a different experience as a viewer. You were a player for many years. With no fans in stadiums or limited fans in stadiums, how do you think that's going to change the experience? Have you spoken to any players about what it might be like to play under that kind of environment?
Yeah, I mean, we had our a scrimmage yesterday in the stadium, and there were no fans there, and it was different, in some ways eerie. But I do think, first of all, the guys as professionals are going to be incredibly focused. They'll execute with excellence. Coach Rivera will have them incredibly prepared. That said, there is a boost that you get from having the fans present in some way. There is something to home field advantage and momentum and all of that. It is a real thing. And so I think one of the challenges for us on the business side is to figure out what we can. It will not be the same, but what can we recraft to provide that, both for the guys on the field, but also for our fans to feel like they are part of the stadium experience in some way. And this is a moment for us to innovate. These are things that, are be unique to the coronavirus environment, but could carry on beyond that. And actually we have a very exciting meeting with our team today to think about what some of those interventions might be.
The Washington team is how we currently refer to your team. Any insight on a possible new name that you could give us?
Not getting anything out of me. It's going to take a moment, not because it's a long process, but because it's really important. And it's more than a name, it's an identity. It's going to reset the way that we engage with the public. It's going to reset the way we think about what we do charitably. It's going to reset fan engagement, the design of our fan experience. And so we want to make sure that fans, sponsors, DMV leaders in the area are very substantively engaged, because this needs to represent the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. It needs to really be the home team. And so it's going to take some time to do that.
All right. Well, congratulations on this new position. Good luck this season. And thank you so much for joining us. Jason Wright, president of the Washington football team.